Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
Liberty, a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and vouched that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her, they've been feeling worse.
Turn it over to another agency. Let's get some help.
Where are your kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say? You're over here in Hawaii? Dad, where are Lori's kids?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Hi, everybody. How are you today? Good morning. So we are already on week 2 of the Alex Murdaugh trial, and we last spoke on Monday. Let me just check with chat and my moderators and see. Okay, everything's good with the camera. All right, thanks, guys. I will shut it off because it just runs better, but I do want to just say hi to everybody and make sure my face is out there. And, I like being on camera here and there to, personalize the channel. But thanks so much for being here, everyone. Hi, Ashley Oaks and Mel Mack, Florida Bass. So today we're just going to be talking about the evidence that we had learned yesterday in court, and actually since the last time we spoke, which was on Monday. So pretty much on day 7, a witness says that someone held Maggie Murdaugh's phone after her time of death. So Maggie Murdaugh stopped answering her cell phone at 8:49 p.m. And then apparently the experts are saying that it looks as though her cell phone moved. So, they can check all of those types of little data polls from a phone, forensic polls that they do from cell phones, and pretty much they determined that it seemed as though someone was trying to access, like, I guess the camera had opened as well. And for those who know what face recognition is, apparently there was like a face recognition denial, meaning that it wasn't Maggie's face that was looking at her phone. So again, just another little mystery that we had found out, who was touching her phone. Apparently her phone was found near the road as well. Yeah, it was found on the side of the road. Let me see what else I have. As far as Paul's phone, he had an incoming call at 8:44. Somebody named Rogan was talking to Paul about dogs. So some of Paul's last text messages, actually his last text messages, were in reference of, taking care of the dogs. And it pretty much, reveals that right around that time, he stopped answering the text messages. Just moments before the fatal shot, cell phone records show Paul spoke on the phone for 4 minutes with his friend Rogan Gibson about a dog that the latter had left in the family's kennels. See if you can get a good picture of the dog's tail. Marion wants to send it to a girl we know that's a vet. Get him to sit and stay. He shouldn't move too much. Gibson texted around 8:49. When Gibson did not hear back from Paul, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division Agent Jeff Croft explained he texted Maggie Murdaugh at 9:34, "Tell Paul to call me." 24 minutes later, he texted Paul, "Yo," and tried to call him 5 times. Prosecutors say Gibson could not reach his friend because Alex Murdaugh had already shot and killed both Paul and Maggie with the different weapons. According to cell records, Murdaugh tried to call Gibson 4 times between 10:20 and 10:30, but the pair never spoke. Around 8:49, Maggie received a text from Alex's sister about Alex's father failing health. The message was left unread. So pretty much by 8:49, I think we can assume that Maggie was dead by then. She was answering her text messages. She was reading her text messages according to the forensic poll. And then just at 8:49, with that text message, never gets read. So then it says a text from Alex to Maggie at 9:07 was left unread. At 9:47, Alex texted his wife, "Call me, babe." That reminds me of the voicemail that Scott Peterson left on Lacey's voicemail. Remember when he was like, I'm coming back from the boat now, or something like that, like, see you soon, babe, or something like that. So then it says, Lieutenant Britt Dove, who works with SLED's computer crimes unit, testified that after Maggie's phone went silent, the orientation on her phone changed around 8:53, waking the screen to activate its Face ID security feature. This suggests that someone other than Maggie picked up the phone as the device scanned their faces but did not open. The phone additionally recorded 59 steps between 8:53 and 8:59. Maggie's phone orientation shifted again at 9:06, again indicating that it was someone else's hands that was using the phone. 2 seconds later, the phone gets an incoming call from Murdaugh. Call logs revealed Murdaugh tried calling Maggie 3 times between 9:04 and 9:06. She did not pick up. Alex got into his car to visit his sick mother, who was suffering the late stages of Alzheimer's, around 9:06 p.m. Now, does anyone in chat think it's a bit odd that he went to visit his mother so late at night? Texting Maggie that he would be right back. He returned to the property at 10:01 p.m. He called 911 at 10:06 after he said he discovered the bodies. Records show he called her twice at 9:47 p.m. and at 10:03. Murdaugh said this is the last time he saw his wife, which was at 8:15. He claims he was sleeping on the couch when they were killed and has denied ever being near the dog kennels. So last week, jurors heard the grisly details of how Maggie was discovered face down with rifle wounds while Paul had been hit twice with a shotgun, powerful enough to detach his brain. Croft, the prosecution's 10th witness since the trial began last week, also described some of the evidence discovered at the scene after Alex's panicked 911 call. In addition to cell phones, Croft said officers found a Gucci receipt for the circled $1,021 purchase in shell casings from the 2 guns. Neither murder weapon has been found. So that just talks a little bit about the phone. Says cell phone evidence indicates that Murdaugh was in the kennels with Paul and Maggie when the murders took place at 8:50. Now, this is only in reference to, I believe, the Snapchat, which we have yet to see or hear. So, I want to ask chat. And by the way, thanks for being here, everyone. And for those who have joined, thanks for being here. Please hit the like if you haven't done so. But I want to ask chat before I read more about like the cell phone data and all that. If we just see the Snapchat, or if we just hear the Snapchat that allegedly has Alec at the kennels, will you think that that's a good enough form of evidence to place him there? Or do you think that the Snapchat needs to have a visual of him there? Because I'm concerned, which we don't know. Like, we've heard that it's audio, and then I've also heard rumors that there's going to be a video. So good morning, Karen and everyone else who have joined. So I'm just concerned that, so far it just seems like the prosecution's evidence and stuff is a bit shaky. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but we are going to listen to the audio that they played in the court where, there's that huge debate. Does he say I did him so wrong, or does he say they did him so wrong? Okay, Karen's concerned too. It just, after I heard that visual discussion, I was not feeling confident. I'm like, wait, are we really going over like the I and the they? This feels like a YouTube live stream for true crime, right? I'm like, this is the form of evidence that they're like using. Like, they think that this is a confession. I don't know. Let me get into this little segment. It was on News Nation with Cuomo, but it's really good. So let me share this. I also edited something together myself. I like to put my own visuals up for you guys, so I'll play that after. And then there's court TV stuff that I want to play, and Vinnie Politan actually drove to the property, so it's a really good firsthand visuals and all that. So the good reporting there. So we'll play that after this stuff, okay? And thank you for being here. It was so bad. I knew it was bad. And I'll let you guys know what I'm hearing. And you guys know that I source a federal law enforcement agent who is active, so he doesn't come on the show, but we talk behind the scenes, and I sent him the audio, and I'll let you know what his thoughts were on it as well.
All right. Now on to Murdaugh. Thank you for your patience, Counselor Bland. You believe that today was a big day for the prosecution.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain to us why?
Well, I think they, again, the timeline for Alex is getting compressed. He now is placed at the kennels at or before the murders took place, but the phone evidence, Chris, was overwhelming today. It showed that Alex or somebody moved the phone. These phones are supercomputers. This is not junk science. This isn't taking blood and trying to match DNA and GSR. This is real, live, objective, factual stuff where you just press a record and the phone records come out. I know Mark's going to say it's circumstantial evidence. Look, he's a legend, but he's never met a crime scene that he liked. He could criticize every crime scene. I will say that I think the government has done a very good job with circumstantial evidence, with the phone, with blowing Alex's alibi, with showing Alex at the scene of the kennel. Clearly, he possibly changed clothes that we're going to see by the Snapchat.
See, they keep saying things like that we're going to see in the Snapchat. He changed his phone, or he changed his clothing. You know, we have yet to see this Snapchat. I think that it's going to be a huge, huge piece of evidence if it is true, because again, if he's saying, no, I was at the house and then I went to see my mother, I was never at the kennels, and then we have him there, you know, that's huge. That is absolutely huge. But yet we have not seen it just yet. But yeah, I mean, right now, everything that the state has presented, if we had to vote today as a jury, and I mean, I hate, it's just everything that they've shown me, I have to say not guilty, because I just don't feel like there's been like a solid leg to stand on, as far as without there being reasonable doubt, you know, if I had to choose today. Now, after this Snapchat, that could be a whole game changer.
The only thing I will concede to Mark is that they haven't shown motive, which is going to be a real important thing. Even though it's not a legal requirement,
All right.
I think for the jury, they're going to have to show a pretty cogent motive. But
All right, so
I
let's
think
go
the
to the
phone
evidence
today was overwhelming.
So let's go to the evidence. Mark Aragos, I'll
think-
allow you to defend yourself, and then we'll use Chris Darden as the judge between the.
And just to talk about motive for a minute. Now, the state is alleging that Alec, you know, did everything, did all this because, you know, he wanted to gain sympathy from the community and from everybody, as his financial crimes were going to be discovered because of the wrongful death lawsuit that Paul got the family involved in with that boating accident that killed that young girl. So that is pretty much what the state is saying. The motive to them is. How are you guys feeling about the motive being, you know, him to gain sympathy? Now, that would mean that as his financial crimes were discovered, because that wrongful death lawsuit would continue, whether or not his family was alive or not. You know what I mean? That family for Mallory Beach wants somebody held responsible and they want compensation. But everything would be discovered as far as his crimes and stuff like that. So if his family was just recently murdered, and again, he's using that boating accident as like a means, like, oh, my son must have been targeted. People have been so angry about what he did and that accident, blah, blah, blah. Ashley said, I can see it. I can see motive for sure, but I need more evidence. I agree. Like, it's just the foundation witnesses are necessary, just hoping they can connect the dots. I hope so too. And, you know, it's just so many people are saying, I could see him hiring someone to do this, but it's just, that's not the state's argument, you know?
The two of you, because I'm too dumb to do it. But basically what he's saying is, and you can put up the full screen of Maggie Murdaugh's phone data. This is his now deceased wife. 8:49, she read a text. Yes, they can tell when you try to read a text. 8:49, the phone locks. 8:53, 59 steps taken with the phone. 8:54, face scan fails. Prosecution theory, Counselor Garagos, is we have a compressed envelope of when she was active and then when someone else took the phone and tried to use it, and it had to be somebody else, which is why the face scan failed. This is Murdaugh. This is him at the scene. This is him trying to cover it up.
And that's the thing, is anyone else could have picked up just to play devil's advocate. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that it scans a face and it's Alex's face. You know, it could be anybody. Just to be real about it, you know. And Holly Undead Channel said, my pop is 75. He is not up for visits at 9 p.m. That's fishy. Elderly people typically don't socialize at that hour. I think it's more suspicious than no alibi. I agree, especially people who have dealt with relatives or just anyone that they know with Alzheimer's. They tend to say that it gets worse at night. So they were sort of surprised that Alec decided to go visit her at that time. But again, if they can place him at the scene, it's over for Alec. I agree, Karen. I agree. Yeah, I'm you know, and the thing is too, is I don't know if they explained it or if you guys can explain it. When they're talking about Alec calling his wife, and when he sends her that text, like, call me back, babe, or whatever, where is his location, you know? Because it says that he was at the property at 10:01, and then it said that he calls 911 at what, 10:03 or something. I don't know. It's just very, very tight timeline. And I think it's fair to say by 8:50, Paul is dead. And by, you know, just moments later, Maggie is dead. I mean, it says right here, her text. So she's alive at 8:49. I have right here in my notes, and these notes were taken from, you know, them talking through the trial. So 8:49, her text, Maggie reads a text. So must have happened within seconds, because they're concluding that Paul was dead by 8:50. So she has her phone out at 8:49. She reads a text. Paul gets shot. Next thing you know, she gets another text at 9:34, and it's never read.
Well, when you haven't had cross-examination yet, I thought it's amazing how reasonable minds can differ, because if you take a look at what happened today, it was very tedious. It was basically foundational. Wait until you get some kind of cross-examination there. You're going to find out, or you already found out today, Murdaugh knew the passcode. He gave the passcode to the cops. He didn't need the face scan. Why was he going to do a face scan of his face on his wife's phone? So that doesn't make any sense. I can understand if he was going to do a face scan of the dead woman, I suppose, of his dead wife. But none of that makes sense. And by the way, I know that motive, and I was the one who always says this about motive's not an element. But the first thing, if you try jury trials, the first thing that jurors get back there and discuss is why. That's what they want to know. Until you give them that, they're not going to buy everything else you're selling.
Understood. Now, for one other thing for Counselor Darden, they had two things today. They had this, and they had a recording of what they say is Alec Murdaugh telling police in the immediate aftermath, an excited utterance, as you guys teach us in law school, that they believe implicates him in this action. Now, let's play it, and then let's play it again, because I have a very hard time making it out. And if I have a hard time, the common people will have a hard time, because that's what I am. All right, so let's.
Yeah, that's a good point. Tenacity for the truth. In his first and second interview, Alec denies being at the kennels, says he took a nap after dinner, which was during the time of the Snapchat video. His story has changed since learning of their evidence. Yep. And like, you changed your name, Cambodian TM. It has to be there. referencing his phone. If he lifted her phone and then almost immediately texted her, he's right there. Right. And those need to be triangulated. And although if his, wait, I have it in my notes that his phone was not active from 8, hold on, I have it written down. 8:09 to 9 o'clock. Alec phone is not active. Okay, so that doesn't really explain too much. Well, I guess it sort of does. So for some reason, his phone from 8:09 to 9 p.m. is just not picking up anything. Like it's either on airplane mode or off. Good morning, Evil CJ. It's good to see you.
Let's play it first.
It's just so bad. I did it so bad. It's just so bad. I did it so bad.
Okay. Now I got to play it again, not just because Dusty was talking to me while we were playing the tape. Now I really don't know what he said. But the question is, did he say, I did him so bad, or they did him so bad? That must be established first. Let's play it again.
It's just so bad. I did it so bad. It's just so bad. I did it so bad.
Chris Darden, what do you hear? What does it mean?
I hear they did him so bad, and therefore it's meaningless, except that it points to a lack of guilt.
Honestly, I think that playing this audio was such a risky move. I don't know, guys. It's just, I couldn't even believe that they were like debating this. I'm like, really? I can't believe the judge even allowed it. It's just so not like solid. And I'll let you guys know what I hear. I enhanced the audio and I turned it up through my editing program. So I will play that for you after this segment and I'll let you know what I hear. Okay.
On the part of the defendant. That's what I hear, but I understand that other people hear something entirely different.
Well, someone in my control room just screamed out, I heard I. Eric Bland is shaking his head. I assume you believe you heard I. What do you hear? Now, Garagos is going to say, I don't care what you heard because it needs context either way.
Right, because look what happened. They didn't ask. I'm sorry, Eric, didn't mean to step on you, but I was just going to say, Sarah made a very good point last night. She said if they believed that this was a confession or an admission, they would have followed up on it in real time. It obviously isn't. They didn't give this as any kind of a notice that it was a confession or admission. This is great for kind of the TV spectators, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not a confession or an admission.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to News Nation.
Yep. I mean, I'd have to agree that I don't think it's any sort of confession. All right, so let me just play my little clips and I will pause and narrate as we go. And Melmac, I do think that her Maggie's $5 million estate that she, was in her name. I think that is definitely some sort of motive, especially with him facing, losing money, essentially.
I mean, Paul has guns scattered all over the place, so.
Now, this is them at trial, and they're listening to the police interview with Alec, and they're talking to him about their gun possessions, how much they have. And honestly, it's just sort of a rocky conversation. We end up finding out that apparently Paul had a gun that went missing. And what do you know? It's the same type of gun used in the murders. And so that was interesting to hear because, as everyone knows, we have yet to find the murder weapons, either of them. And now all of a sudden we're hearing that one of the guns that Paul lost, quote unquote, is the same type that they have as far as the wounds and connection to the crime. So just listen and watch all this. It's just unsettling.
You know, some of our guns aren't there, but so you want to know all of them, or you want to know?
And it's just rocky from the start. Like, he's just trying to get answers, and he starts off saying some of our guns aren't there, because he wants to know like what guns you have on property, you know, like list me off the stuff that you have. That way we can kind of narrow down like where these murder weapons came from, right? Listen.
I mean, Paul has guns scattered all over the place. So, you know, some of our guns aren't there, but so you want to know all of them, or you want to know what I think is in my house, or what was in my house on Monday?
Yeah, what was in your house? Let's start with what was in your house on Monday.
Okay, whatever was in my house on Monday is exactly what was there, minus one shotgun that y'all got.
Okay.
No guns have been moved for, you know, there hadn't been any guns moved in and out of there other than when Paul was home. You know, when Paul came home, he would ride around and shoot hogs a lot.
What would he shoot hogs with?
You know, I mean, primarily he would shoot them with Buster's gun. Because Paul had a 300 Blackout.
Okay.
And it got, you know, he says it got stolen.
Oh, what do you know? The Paul, who can't speak and tell a story himself, said, you know, Alec is saying that, you know, he says it got stolen. Well, you're you know, of a legal mind and education. Did you not think like, oh, wow, we have a gun that's linked to us? You know, the last thing we need is something to happen with a gun linked to us. We need to report that as stolen. Because this is, you know, the last thing we need after that boating accident, Paul, is for some stolen gun to fall back on us too. So I'm calling and I'm getting that reported. You know, but you know that there's probably no paper trail of this gun that is the same type of gun used in the murders being stolen.
You know, and it's been gone for some time.
The degrees?
No, that one didn't.
Until July 12th. But on July 12th.
So, of course, that gun, like am I frozen? Let me know. But he said that gun's been gone for quite a long time. So very convenient. And then here we're just going to talk about how, you know, the defense was drilling the detective and wants to know, is it possible that there's more than one shooter? Now, I want to know what chat thinks. And, you know, honestly, this part, you can tell she's very uncomfortable with this question. I think, and somebody that I reference also thinks that it's possible that whoever did the shooting could have made it look like it was two shooters. I don't know. What are you guys thinking? And yes, the stippling shows the shooter shot them at close range. And I do want to play like a little segment from News Nation that aired last night with Joseph Scott Morgan, who's the forensic death investigator. And they talk a little bit more about that as well. But this part, I think, was very interesting, and she was sort of backed into a corner, and you just have to answer. You just have to answer honestly when you're up there, you know? So could it be possible there's two shooters? Yes. Or is it he's just making it look like there's two shooters?
Did anyone go back out and walk this line to see if maybe there's shell casings way up here? No one looked up there, correct?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay, and no one did a topographical study to indicate, if you follow these lines back, whether wherever a shooter could have been were higher or lower than the doghouse or the small animal cage, right?
Right.
But doesn't this indicate to you there were two shooters? There was a shooter up here and a shooter down here. Is it a possibility? Let me say this. Is it a possibility that there are two shooters based on the data you collected?
It just indicated there was movement to me.
Movement from here all the way up to here?
I don't know that it went all the way up there.
But is it, I'm not telling you, I mean, one explanation would be movement, correct? One explanation would be two shooters. I'm sorry? Yes.
I wasn't there.
No. But one explanation of this data would be 2 shooters. One explanation, not the, but one.
Not the only one.
Yeah, not the only one, but it is a reasonable explanation, just like one shooter running up that way, correct?
Sure.
One of the reasonable explanations is there are 2 people there, there are 2 guns there, one's a shotgun, one's an AR, and we now see that that AR is being shot from way up here, correct?
I can't see that, no. It's somewhere along that line.
And that line goes a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen yards from the feed room, if you follow it straight up.
I don't know where they were within that line.
Could someone have been a lookout there? They went there to kill Paul, and that's the lookout. Maggie surprised them. They thought she was gone.
I have no idea.
Reasonable though, right? Right?
I have no idea. I wasn't there.
I know you weren't there, but none of us were there. We're trying to figure out what happened that night. And clearly, one reasonable explanation is 2 shooters. One explanation.
One.
Right. And a number of them.
The possibility.
Now, remember, the prosecution is claiming that the murder weapons were owned by the family, the Murdaugh family, because they're comparing the ammunition at the crime scene to ammunition that was found on their own property that, they match. So the ridges and the imprints on the ammunition found around the property, when they use their guns for recreational use and just for fun, those were matching the imprints from the ammunition at the crime scene. So just to remind everybody of how they're kind of linking these guns with what evidence they do have. So just like, we've talked about it in other cases, when you fire a gun, it leaves a specific, almost like a fingerprint. So it's just, that is pretty much where they're tying in all of that. But then that raises the question, and I hate to, we just have to think critically, so it's just, could a home invader or a stranger, somebody have gone into their house, taken their own guns, and then gone out to the kennels? I mean, that's probably what the defense is going to raise as a bit of doubt. Because if they are using just the imprints on the ammunition found around the place and comparing it to ammunition that looked weathered and looked like they had been on their property for a while, anyone could just take that and use their guns. And now we're talking about one of the guns allegedly being stolen. It's just too much doubt, you know what I mean? Which is what the defense's job is supposed to do. So now here, as many of you know, we've followed her commentary on other cases, but the woman in the bottom right is she's not retired, but she's former CIA and former FBI special agent. So we always like to reference Tracy Walter is her name. She's got good insight. So pretty much they're asking her, more than one shooter, or what are your thoughts?
Of 2 shooters, and I would assume that SLED would have investigated that possibility at length since there were 2 weapons used.
So I think that, in my opinion, Buster is probably not involved in this crime. He was probably one of the first people cleared as a suspect, to be completely honest. I also think, though, that I've always thought about the possibility of 2 shooters, because what is one of the most unusual things about these crime scenes is the 2 different kinds of guns that were used. And I've investigated cases where there's been multiple shooters using multiple weapons, but I don't know that I've ever seen one where a singular person used 2 really both weapons that you really can't put on your person. You'd have to actually put down one and pick up the other. I'm not saying there are 2 shooters involved, but I do think this is something that they could use to really sow some reasonable doubt.
And remember, the pictures that I was just showing of the guns, I mean, those obviously are not the murder weapons because they have yet to find them. But those are pretty much, showing you what the weapons were used. The second one shown there was the one used on Maggie, I believe. And I guess the defense tried to not allow those guns to be brought into the courtroom because they're not the murder weapons. And they're stating that there's no proof to say that Alec fired those types of guns, but the judge allowed them.
In the jury.
This, however, is the gun that Alec had on him when first responders arrived. Remember, on 911, he's claiming that he wanted to go get a gun. And then later in his police interview, we seen in the car, he said something about grabbing the gun. And then he says, probably overreacted. I don't understand that still. It's like, why would he try to like play it off like he overreacted when, on 911, he was just so dramatic, obviously you'd be a bit dramatic. But he's like, insistent on going to get it. It's just, he's always playing two sides of people. He's the type of person tells somebody one thing and then like, stirs the pot by saying something else, just manipulative. I don't even need to explain it much. It seems like people understand who follow this case that he's just a very manipulative, conniving person. So him just acting like, oh, I had to get the gun and then trying to downplay it to me is just so weird. Yeah, it seems as though Maggie was running and trying to get away.
It was just so bad.
Okay, so obviously here is the audio again. And it's enhanced by what little enhancement I can do through my editing program. So it may be a little bit more clear. Either way, I did turn it up. So I'm sorry if it was a little loud for a second there, but let me just play this through, streamline it. Oh, good morning, Tom N. It's good to see you. Good morning, Amber. Hope everyone is having an awesome hump day, learning a lot of new technologies on this case for sure. Me too. Like I was amazed how they had said like, okay, they can tell if somebody like tried to do a face recognition into her phone. Like I know that is kind of an obvious thing. Like, yeah, of course. But in this, I don't think we've followed a case thus far where they have had us like shown us like, yeah, somebody tried to use a face recognition on this phone and it was denied. So it's just amazing, the technology and everything that it adds to the courtroom too. And it says in my notes that Alec claims he didn't try to open Paul's phone. So the other thing that I have in here too is the clips in the car weren't fingerprinted. Do you guys know what my notes are referring to there? Where were the clips found and in what car? Were they found in Alec's car? Sorry, sometimes I write things down and then either I can't read it or I don't know what it's about. But apparently I have written down that his mother's house wasn't searched until September. So that is very troubling. Months later, then they finally decided to search his mother's house. And this sort of goes back to what Karen was saying in chat earlier. They treated Alec with baby gloves and baby hands at first because of who he was. And then evidence was lost in the meantime. He goes to his mother's house the night of the murders and they don't go over there. And hello, Adrian. It's good to see you. I'm just trying to read chat real quick before I continue on. Yeah, exactly. If Alec tried to turn Paul over and check Maggie, why no blood on his person, clothes, hands, etc. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It's tough. It was just so bad. They did it so bad.
All right. Back it up and play it in real time again, Doug. Real time.
Are not easy. I know it's hard. And sitting here talking today is tough.
It was just so bad. They did it so bad.
Now, when I first heard this, I heard it's just so bad. I did him so bad. And I agree, Mel Mack said Sled should have taken Alec into questioning that night. Not in his car or not in their car, their cruiser or whatever. Like, sorry, we're getting you in a police room, because you got to make them feel like you don't want them to feel nervous, but at the same time, I mean, he can't be treated with differently than other people. He should have been placed in the police station and recorded it there. Even if his lawyer was there, like, big deal. It's just, it would have been more interesting to see him in an environment where he's being treated as if he could be a potential suspect. Instead, they treated him as if like, sorry about it. Do you mind if we just talk to you a little bit in the car? it's not right, clearly. But anyways, so what I heard was it's just so bad. I did him so bad. But then as soon as they slowed it down, which I've also enhanced and will play for you guys, I hear they. So I went from being so certain, like, oh, yep, I hear I. And then they slowed it. And I was like, I hear something different. And I feel like it has a lot to do with maybe his Southern accent, where it sounds like I did him so bad, but it's just him, like his accent, in my opinion. But again, everyone is hearing something different. So I asked my law enforcement source. I sent him the clip. What do you hear? Sent him the regular time, and then I sent him the slowed down one. And I didn't tell him what I heard. So I waited for him to tell me. And he said he heard I. And then as soon as I sent him the slowed down one, he said the same thing I did, like, oh, now I hear they. Julie said the whole thing is a mess. I think he was given special treatment too in ways that messed up the investigation. 100%. They cannot deny that at this point. Jessie Lynn hears they. So let me play.
Stop. Did you hear now, they or I?
I will still testify that my hearing, I hear I.
It's just so bad. It's so bad.
Did you hear they then?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay.
So the detective is staying firm that he said I. Tom N says, I hear they did him so bad, almost like he hired people. They would be plural. How would he know they? And you know what? That is a good point. It's like either way, it sounds bad. Like they did him. So it's almost like he is pushing the narrative that there's two shooters, right? And now we speculated, was there two shooters, or was it made to look like there's two shooters? So if we're saying that Alec Murdaugh is that manipulative and, he's a lawyer, you think he doesn't know cases that, and I'm not saying that he tried criminal elements or anything, but I'm sure he's well versed in all types of cases. I'm sure there's been cases where somebody made something look like two shooters and they were found not guilty or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's not unheard of to think that Alec would be smart enough to think like, you know what, I'm going to stage this up to make it look like there's two shooters, or, it's just, yeah. And that's the thing too. They is not necessarily plural. That's true. It's really how everyone takes it, everyone hears it, and the jury are the ones that are going to really matter. Hello, Jen Lou and CDT and Jesse, Roxanne. Thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate you guys all being here. I heard and if he said they, wouldn't they have asked him, who is they, to find the real killers? And that's the other thing is they asked too, or I think that they said it in some segment I watched, but pretty much they were saying like, if it was anything of relevance at the time that Alex said it, wouldn't they have really, drilled him on that? And it's like, yes, it's fair to say that it must have meant nothing to them at the time. Otherwise they would have pursued it. But at the same time, we've already seen how they handled Alec. So it's like, well, maybe they just pretended they didn't hear it, or maybe they didn't want to think that he said that, or, you know what I mean? Julie says, I think he knows how to manipulate things because he's a lawyer. I agree. If he wasn't there or if he didn't hire people, there is no way for him to know plural they. Honestly, it's just the hired route, hiring someone, to me seems more probable at this moment. The truth is whether he said they or I, it should have been followed up on. Right. Either way, they, who's they? Or I, what did you mean by that? It's just annoying. Maybe they heard it on tape and they missed it in real time. Yeah, that's true. That is true. I wish, and you know what? I wonder if when they, It's too late. They probably could have already asked that detective. Why didn't you say anything at the time? This is a crime scene pic too. I just wanted to throw up there. I'm not sure what type of bullet hole that is in the window, but I just wanted to add it at the end there to share with you guys before we switch screens and go to, what do I want to share? This court TV segment. Vinny, we love Vinny here. He goes to the Murdaugh property. It's good. It's good. Let me play it. Hold on. Let me make sure an ad doesn't start because I don't have YouTube Premium yet, guys. Sorry. And I hate playing the ads. All right. We're all set. And thank you again for being here, everybody. I want to go on camera while I play this because I spend the time to do my makeup. But if I'm frozen, I don't want to play, or I don't want to be on camera. So let me go on camera. And if I'm frozen, don't be afraid to tell me you're frozen. Okay, let me thumbs this up.
And you knew that at no point in time in June, July, August, anyone went over to Alameda, searched the house, searched the property for any dirty clothes or any murder weapons.
I know that I did not go, and I'm not sure what the other agents in the investigative circle had done.
Well, if you went over there, if you had gone over there on the morning of the 8th, scour the place and not find anything, that would sort of help nudge Alec outside this investigative circle, would it not?
I can't testify to what if, sir. I did not go.
This could be a problem for prosecutors. Investigators didn't go to the Alameda property. This is the property that belongs to Alec's parents. That's where his parents were living, right? So his mom is there, and this is part of his alibi. Crucial. But for whatever reason, the area wasn't searched. So earlier today, we jumped into the truck and we went to the scene. We went to Alameda. Let me show you what we found out.
Yeah, I just think it's hugely an issue that they didn't go to his mother's property. Thanks, everyone, for letting me know. The thing is, like, I could be in my office, which is closer to the router and stuff, and I wouldn't freeze. I don't know why all of a sudden with the snow, like my Wi-Fi is not as good down here, but it's closer to the little one's room, and I don't want to wake her up. Otherwise, that ends the show quick, too. So forget it. I'm never going on camera while I'm down here. Yeah, exactly, Jesse Lynn. They messed up. So the window is not shotgun pellets. Okay.
We're on the road, taking a drive to the Murdaugh property, that's sprawling 1,700 acres on Moselle Road. And we're doing it for two reasons. Number one, I want to see what it looks like, what you can see from the road, the shed, that whole area. But number two, more importantly, I want to retrace Alec Murdaugh's route that night because that's his alibi.
And just so everyone knows, it takes 18 minutes to get from Alec's property to his mother's house. So keep that in mind as we're thinking about, and mind you, remember, the other thing to keep in mind, his phone is off network or, just not active from 8:09 to 9:07, or what does it say? 8:09 to 9, Alec's phone is not active. So, when is the time that he's napping compared to the time that he's driving to his mother's, and during that time why is his phone not active? It seems as though possibly his phone maybe isn't active during his nap time, quote unquote nap time. And then maybe, because we do know, which we talked about earlier, he tried, calling Maggie and stuff like that, but that wasn't until 9 something, or we stated it earlier, but either way, it's just, and they can't prove why his phone is not active, right? It's like, yeah, how convenient. And just like we seen in the affidavit for Koberger, it said something along the lines in the detective notes for their probable cause to arrest him was, in my experience as a law enforcement detective or whatever, in the past where crimes have taken place, perpetrators will often shut their phones off so that it doesn't place them in the scene of the crime. So that was an excuse that they were using in that affidavit. So if we can use that type of thinking and use the experience of that detective in that case to kind of transition it over into this case, during the time of 8:09 to 9 p.m., Alec phone is not active, so what exactly is going on? Because we have it also written here that by 8:50, they have Paul is deceased. And, around the same time, Maggie as well. So 8:44, Maggie reads a text message. At 8:49, she has a text message that she read. By 9:34, she never opened another text message. So in that hour, yeah, exactly. Red flags.
Way to the Moselle property, and there's nothing, right? There's a lot of farms, a lot of woods, and maybe a house here or there, and absolutely no lights. We are now on Moselle Road. A couple more homes here than we've been seeing, so it's a little more.
And like he said, no lights, a lot of country roads, a lot of just open space. Was evidence ditched along this ride? That's what I want to know, and it's like the possibilities are endless. Is it in the middle of a field or is it below some tree or something? You know what I mean? Tom N says technology is going to be what gets him, in my opinion. This Snapchat is just so key. And I'm going to be who else is going to be let down if it's just audio, quote unquote, audio of Alec there? I mean, unless it's completely clear, I just want to see if he's on video in this Snapchat, because there have been rumors, there have been rumors that there's video. I'm shocked that a 1,700-acre property, you would have 0 cameras protecting your property, but you have cameras in the woods and deer stands to track the deer. I thought that was odd too. You have and to top it off, Jessie Lynn, you just kind of made me think, and you have a missing gun. Remember, apparently Paul's gun was stolen. So you never thought after his gun was stolen to add cameras?
Residential, but still extremely rural. Okay, looks like we're approaching one of the entrances to the Moselle property here. And the one thing that really sticks out to me is that there are no direct neighbors to Alec Murdaugh. This is the main entrance. You can tell nothing's been happening there for quite some time. So we're gonna jump out and take a look at.
Okay, Jen, I think that was what I heard too, and it like confused me. So she said, my understanding is there's one Snapchat video and that the video with the voice was actually stored in his gallery. Okay, I didn't hear the gallery part, but I don't know. Interesting. Either way, all that metadata is going to be verified as factual. You can't lie about the phone evidence. In the car interview, Alex says he doesn't know Paul's phone passcode. So why did he pick up his phone to begin with? Right. And he even says, he's like, I thought maybe and then I thought no, or I figured it out or something. I think you can still call 911 on a locked phone, but I'm not certain that Alec knows that, or he didn't state that that's what he was looking to do. I never understood his little like conversation there about his phone popping out, and I thought maybe, and then I figured it out. That all didn't make sense to me. I wish they would have said like, you figured what out, or what do you mean by that? Because if this Snapchat is a key piece of evidence and it couldn't be the nail in the coffin, I'm not saying it's going to be, because I don't want to get my hopes up, but was he looking like, should I check his phone, or did he post anything about me recently or something like that. Me too, I kept saying there were 2 Snapchats, but the video and the voice is on his phone, stored wherever iPhone stores videos. Okay. So when you make a video, I don't know. I don't use Snapchat much, but either way, I'm excited to see what exactly they have, because at this point they have amped it up so much, haven't they? He chose this area because he knew there was 0 CCTV. Right. Exactly. And thank you again, Tom.
This entrance and what we can see and where it relates to that route that he took that night. So right now we're approaching the area where the hangar and the kennels are. And I want to get out and I want to take a closer look at all of that so we get some idea of what there, you can actually see it. You can actually see it from the roadway, that area, and this exit from the property. 4147 Moselle Road, that's where we are. This is one of the ways you get into the Murdaugh family property. If you look behind me, this is what we've been seeing throughout the trial. Back there, the hangar, the kennels, the shed, that's all in that area there. I can't go there. I can't take you there because this is private property. We were reminded just a few minutes ago when we arrived by one of the local deputies, so we can't go on the property. But that's where the double murders took place. Alec Murdaugh, as we know, says he didn't do it. He wasn't there at the time of the murders, but he did talk about being on the property and leaving the property that night. So if he drives down this road back onto Moselle to exit his home, he's going to drive right past where Maggie and Paul are.
And he's going to say, but he went the other direction. But let me just read this comment because, yeah, it's BS that there weren't security cameras with all the expensive farm vehicles and equipment that could have been towed away so close to the public road. And just think about the kennel aspect. You know, they have people's dogs there that aren't their dogs, from my understanding. So you didn't think to have any sort of security for even the kennel area. It's strange to me. Yes, this is South Carolina.
But he says when he went to go visit his mom, he didn't leave this way. He exited from down the road, and you can see it from here. There's another exit / entrance to the property, and that one is actually a little bit closer to the main house. This is the house where Alec Murdaugh said he was. It's the main house, and when you leave there to go to Moselle Road, the quickest exit is actually the main gate. And once you go through that main gate and you hit Moselle Road, Alec Murdaugh says he made a right-hand turn, which would be the opposite direction of the murder scene, made that right, and then drove to his mother's house. We're on our way to the Alameda property, and you've got to take a road called 63, more of a main road here, but still no lights. So it's going to be dark when he's doing all of this. The sun set about 8:29 that night.
So are we to assume that none of these roads even had a deer camera that possibly saw him drive by? Like, do they literally have nothing about this drive to his mother's house? Or do you think that they just haven't gotten there yet?
But here's the thing.
And my other question is, does the mother's house have any security cameras? Because to me, it would be kind of strange. You know, I'm assuming that she has some sort of live-in nurse maybe, or a nurse that stops by, takes care of her, possibly. I'm just speculating. But still, like maybe like security camera. I don't know. I'm curious there. HBO, hold on. HBO special shows they have a Ring camera, showed them leaving the house. Really? I haven't seen that HBO one. I watched the one on Peacock, but I need to get to that one. And thank you, Gene P. And thanks for being here. What a pretty picture. She had a caretaker. Okay, thank you, Jen Lou. And if anyone is looking for more coverage on this case, Jen Lou has a really good channel where she's following this as well. Great insight, great commentary, good laughs too. So check her out. I think there would be trail cams, but maybe not pointed at the road, right? Because they're probably for hunters or something. I don't know. I think there's nothing. Usually people this wealthy have cameras. It is strange, especially with a stolen gun and other people's dogs on your property, etc.
Quickest route to his mother's house, and it's about 18 minutes from his property.
So now thinking about crunching this timeline, 18 minutes to the property, so we're going to just say like 40 minutes he was gone just driving, how long did he even visit with his mother?
18 minutes there, 18 minutes back. How much time did he actually spend with his mom? As we get closer, things are getting much more residential. There's some businesses and an actual street light with a town. As we're driving towards the Alameda property, we are driving parallel with the train tracks, and this seems to be the area of this town that was developed. This is the Alameda property. That's where Alec Murdaugh said he went. It's his alibi. He went to go visit his mother inside that home, right on the other side of these train tracks next to a major highway here. The question is, what was he doing there that night? Because he did go there. Was he just visiting his mother, or was he getting rid of some evidence and cleaning up? That's a question for the jury. But the bottom line is, when he left the home, he went down this road back to the highway for that 18-minute drive back to the scene of the murder.
So around 40 minutes drive time. Now think about the time that his phone is not active, 8 o'clock to 9. So we know that Paul is responding to text messages all the way up until like 8:44-ish. So I'm just having a hard, that's, to me, it's just like, if this video is valid, or if the Snapchat audio is placing Alec at the kennels, then that means while he's there, that's when his phone, there's a good chunk of his phone is being shut off while he's at the murder scene. So, I mean, that kind of just narrows down the time of when his phone is not active. He's right around that area. And the audio in the Snapchat, I mean, this is just my opinion. But, we do know for a fact that his phone is off from 8:07 to 9 p.m. And we do know for a fact that Maggie never reads a text message at 9:34, but she read one at 8:49. So that's still within the time that his phone is off, that they're both dead. If they have his voice on the video, his timeline is done. I agree. And that the defense will just raise doubt if it's just his voice and not his face. Unfortunately, they'll do anything, and it's just their job. And it's fair to raise doubt because, voice recognition, it'll just be interesting if they could sway every single juror to say, yep, that voice is him. Okay, so let me continue this, and then I want to play a Banfield one too. It's sort of short, and then by then court's probably going to start. So I'll exit the live stream, but thank you all for being here. And if you haven't checked out CDT's channel, she covers great cases over there as well. So check her out. So let me play this. Let me play the Banfield thing after that has Joseph Scott Morgan in it. And then we'll probably conclude and you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Okay. But this next stuff is interesting. So stick around at least until the end.
So there you have it. I mean, eye-opening when you see the whole ride. It's not a quick ride. It's not like around the corner. I mean, his mother doesn't live around the corner. You got to drive a bit, and there's some, long stretches. There's no lights. All this taking place after dark. The sun set around 8:29 on that night. So all this in the middle of the dark, in the middle of the night, you're going to see your mom. Why? It's fascinating. The other thing that I've noticed since being here is that people kind of, settle down early in the evening, right? Once you get past 8:30, 9 o'clock, there's not much happening anywhere. So why would that be the time that you're going visiting? Interesting, right? All right, let's bring back our guest, general painter Matt Harris, with us. Also joining us, Joseph Scott Morgan. He is a professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, former senior investigator.
Okay, Karen, thanks for being here. Enjoy your day.
For the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, but most importantly, the host of the Body Bags podcast. You got to check it out. Great to see everyone. All right, Chanley, let's talk about all this. This is a couple of things are fascinating here. One is the alibi. You take that drive back and forth. It wouldn't leave a ton of time for him to spend visiting with his mom.
Right. He maybe was there around 20 minutes at his mother's house. And
thank you, Pizza Chemist, for the pizza fund money. And that's the thing too, is just thinking about the fact that we know through Jen Lou and just, it's kind of, you would just assume if she has a nurse aide and, why then would he have felt like I need to go visit my mom at 9 p.m. Like the nurse would have taken care of probably everything she needed thus far, got her settled. Like it wasn't like there was nobody there to assist the mother in a way. So it's just like, how long did he even spend there? And what was the reason that he even went over there? Like to hang out with her at past 9 p.m.? It's just very odd. And like to be so smart and manipulative as it seems he is, let's say he is guilty. Again, he's innocent until proven guilty, but let's say he is guilty. Didn't he think that these optics just looked bad? Like, so you were driving in your car, no one else was with you conveniently, and your phone was off during this time. It's just very weird. And the other thing that doesn't make sense to me, so he takes a nap, and in that time of the nap, his phone that we know is not active, right? But your mother has dementia and you feel the need to go visit her. Why would you have your phone not active if your mother's in that sort of state? Or, just don't you want to have your phone on? Like say the nurse or somebody had to, or even his mom herself had to call you and say like, blah, blah, blah. It's strange that he makes it seem like, yes, I have to go care for my mother. And it's like, okay, but why didn't you have your phone on during this time? What if your mother needed to reach you? Right. And all he had to do was call the caretaker to check on his mom. And I'm sure he's done that numerous times,
he grew up there. He's familiar with these roads, even at night. He knows how to get there. And we expect the digital cell phone data to follow his path, how long he actually spent there. And her nurse was there as well, who will testify about his visit.
That's crucial.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the nurse was going to testify. What? This is going to be big.
Crucial. That's crucial testimony. What she saw, what she heard, how Alec Murdaugh was acting at that moment. Was everything seemingly normal? All right, Matt, what do we know about the Alameda property itself?
Well, where you were standing, where the railroad tracks are, a little trivia from what I've been told, that is where I believe it would be his great-grandfather was hit by a train right there. And that was the beginning of the suing the train companies and
Holy moly. That's crazy. So that train track, that's where his grandfather was hit? Wow. And Tom says exactly, let's look into how often he visits his mom at night. Most older people are asleep before 8. Phone off reeks of guilt. I agree. And like they said in somebody's comment, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, tenacity for the truth. And the father was on his deathbed. He literally died that week. But yet you shut your phone off? Bizarre. Very bizarre. And thank you, Tom, and again for that.
and making that their livelihood for a while.
That's fascinating.
That's why that was built that way. They built that up there because it used to just go through, and they changed it because of that.
Now, the other thing, we're looking at this property, Joseph Scott Morgan. If, in fact, the prosecutor is going to argue that he's getting rid of evidence, I mean, we looked at this property. There are just a ton of places where you could get rid of stuff. Like if they searched, which they didn't, where would you look?
Well, there's any number of ways. And just to break this down for you, in crime scene investigation, we refer to primary, secondary, and tertiary scenes. And so when you begin to think about this in this vast area, many things can be hidden. They can be out of view. You know, I think probably for me, when you start to think about that vehicle is a conveyance, you know, how much have we talked about that recently, been talking about Idaho? You begin to think about that vehicle being a conveyance for him. If there was any kind of trace evidence on his person, if he's transporting any kind of items that might be involved in this crime, and we would have to admit that it is a very bloody scene. I wonder how quickly the authorities got to that car. Maybe Matt will have a better answer for that than I. But then you think about the roadway. You know, I watched you driving down the road, Ben, and I thought about all those ditches along the way and all those little areas along the way that he would have known of. Anybody along there knows of, little cubby holes where you can stop. Can it be suggested that the police would put all of their resources to combing every single inch of that rural space up and down that road? I've seen them do it before with academy cadets from the police department. I've seen them do it with prisoners before, Ben, if you can believe that. You know, how much of that area did they actually comb with a fine tooth comb? And so, you know, you've got multiple areas where you could have gotten rid of things along the way.
Matt, let me just ask you quickly. We have
100 acres there.
Yeah, we have just about 20 seconds. How much of a search of his car was done immediately, or of the Alameda property?
Well, they say they found gun residue inside the car. They towed the car that night. They towed Alex's car that night. So I was.
They had an opportunity to go over it. Okay.
Very interesting. I cannot wait to hear what the aide has to say. Let me switch up and play this little segment from News Nation. I believe Joseph Scott Morgan is on it again. So some good info. 1 second, guys. And thank you for being here. I'm going to close up after this little video, and then obviously I'll be following the trial and we will talk soon. I want to gather a lot of things to kind of discuss, though. Like, I had stuff lined up because things were just really interesting these last few days in the trial. So I hope that I can gather up some more, and maybe Friday morning, but no promises unless it's a slow rest of the week in the trial. But then I'll be there Monday morning, probably, if not Friday. So let me switch my screen. And is anyone else, other creators in chat going live? Feel free to let us know, and we can continue conversations over on your guys' channel too today. Because some people follow us at work, like our moderator, Florida Bass Fishing. He likes to listen to us at work. So we can keep the conversation going for anyone who would like it, if anyone else is going live.
To process. Is it too much? You know, OJ was like 9 months. It totally wrecked those people's brains. That was too much. Teaching them about DNA before anybody had ever heard DNA, it can be too much. It can be too much. And sometimes it's not enough. That's where Joseph Scott Morgan comes in. He's a certified death investigator and a forensic analyst. He's a distinguished scholar of applied forensics at Jacksonville State University. So he will always say, it's never enough. I can never get enough of the evidence. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like all of a sudden it starts to get very confusing, and sometimes defense attorneys love it. They love when it starts to get confusing, because for them, they can then start to sow doubt.
Yeah, they really can, Ash. And, you know, you find yourself drowning in it. I'm glad that you mentioned the Simpson case, because that certainly was the case way back then, back in the mid-90s, you know, with that. I think that we all came away with our heads swimming. How fine a point can you put on this, and how much is enough? You know, what do you need in order to be able to illustrate what actually went down on Moselle that night? And so that in and of itself, I think, and then, you know, kind of wheeling out the weapons, you know, that they brought into court now. And then of course the videography that we had from the scene, where they're going through the house, and we have that video of them, seeing and inventorying all of these weapons, and not to mention, all of the minute stuff, at the scene itself, the blood evidence that's there, certainly the casings that were left behind, and it is a bit much to digest. Hopefully, they'll be able to bring this all back together and kind of tighten it down so that the jury.
That's that's the job it's the job of a Johnny Cochran. He brought it all down to like a few words. If it don't fit, you got to acquit. And that just stays with you like a bumper sticker, right? There's just so much coming at these folks. And one of the things that I think the defense is probably seizing on at this point, and you tell me if the death scene that you've been looking at will support this, is that no possibility could one person have done this. No way. This had to be two. It had to be two people. So you know how many shells.
So do you guys think it's two people, or do you think it's one person and make it look like two? And just because if you do say it's two people, let me know if you think Alec is one of them, or do you think it's two hired people? Just let me know what you guys are thinking. And for those on replay, comment down below.
You know how many footprints, how many tire prints. You know the position of the bodies, the number of shots that each body took. Do you think this is your business. Do you think it has to be two, or is this just as easily one shooter?
No, it could potentially be two. However, what is the more plausible? You have this event that takes place in, let's face it, a very tight area, when you're talking about a 30-foot distance between Paul and Maggie. However, defense did score some points today when they were talking about the trajectories of the rounds. Remember that? He had her, the crime scene technician, on the stand and really kind of got her twisted around a bit. She was a bit frustrated and began to apply the protractor there and talk about the trajectory of the rounds. And this was significant because he actually mentioned at one point in time, Ash, this line of trajectory goes out and it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. And, he makes it sound like this was a 300-yard shot, multiple shots. Well, the evidence doesn't support that, because not only do you have casings that are relatively close to Maggie's body, but guess what else you have? You've got stippling surrounding these wounds. And we know what that means. That means you've got to be at least 18 inches away. Yep.
Hey, can I ask you one other thing? This thing.
8 to 10 inches away for the type of stippling at the scene. I knew that Maggie for sure was close range. And I suppose it makes sense given how they're describing Paul's head, that his was pretty close too. But that's wow. So that's why it's just so amazing, if Alec is the shooter, or one of the shooters, if there's two, that he's completely clean, etc. The gunshot residue is still like confusing to me. So help me, experts in chat. They for sure found some on his seatbelt, right? And then they found some on the inside of his shirt, but the second time they processed it. Is that true, guys? I just want to make sure I'm getting the gunshot residue correct, like in my mind, and how to make sense of this, because it's just, could he have washed up at his mother's house? By the time that they did the search warrant and any type of processing at the mother's house, it was months later. They have gone through people's drains and checked for blood and stuff like that in people's drains. And, but by then, would that shower or whatever have been ran enough where there would be no evidence? It's just a bit of mishandling.
This is what bothers me, and I wonder if the jury is just going to say, I've had it. They brought out the shoes, right? The photographs of Paul's shoes. There's the flip-flop, not Paul's, Alex. The flip-flops, and then there's the New Balance sneakers with the tread pattern. And then they showed all these footprints in the sand. And they're the shoes right there. Look at that, the New Balance. And you want to say, aha, they got footprints with a tread. There's the sand. It's in the tread. It's him. Yeah, he lives there. Right. Help me to understand why anybody cares about a guy who has footprints in the sand at his own home, and why anyone thinks this is forensically going to mean a heap of anything.
Yeah, it's much ado about nothing. It's a great diminishment here, I think, and you're wasting time on this particular evidence because, as you stated and rightly stated, Paul was known to traipse through this area. The whole family was. Maggie went out there regularly to check on those dogs. They have to feed the dogs, and so this is not some eureka moment. It's kind of like finding DNA at a scene where people inhabit that space. It's all fine and good. You say that you got DNA, that's fine.
Yes, Tom N. And thank you again for the super chat, but I totally agree with that. He covered himself by touching both victims, in my opinion, because remember in his police interview in the car, he starts talking about when he discovered them, and then he says something about Paul, and then he says, and then I went over to Maggie, and then he goes, well, first, I think I touched Paul, or I tried to flip him over before I went to Maggie. He's got to make sure to let the cop know and to let it on the record that he touched them, and whether that's just because he wants to make sure he gets the accuracy of the story because he's innocent, or whether he's got to steer the narrative a certain way, or like you said, cover his bases and cover himself by saying that he touched both victims. I think it could go I definitely see where you're getting at, and for sure. Hello, Melissa Jades. Good to see you.
Shoe prints are the same way. It's an individualized tie back that you can have to these individuals. What's more striking, which defense made quite a bit of hay with, Ash, is this idea that you've got the police that are tracking through this area as well. So you've got an overlay of potential prints that are in this area. They talked about the bloody footprint, and most concerning, I think, again, defense scored points here, I believe, where she said she couldn't, actually make the print out. And then there was another admission that she stated that, the police had made this print there. And look, that happens because you don't know what you're walking into at any moment in time. Lighting is compromised. You can't appreciate where everything is.
Yeah. There's more to come, so you have to come back, Joseph Scott Morgan. Thank you. Thank you for watching.
No, Ashley, thank you. Well, thanks everyone for being here. I'm sure we're all going to switch over and start watching the trial. And I appreciate everyone who joined me for our chat today. And we'll talk very soon on the case, I'm sure. And like I said, I'm working on some stuff back behind the scenes on some other cases, including Idaho 4, while we wait for new information to come out in that case. So just some stuff behind the scenes and all that. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk very soon, everyone.